Deciding to file bankruptcy can be a tough decision. On one hand, you continue to struggle to pay the debts. On the other, you realize it's time to rid yourself of the financial pressure and start over. If you're ready to start over, Colorado Bankruptcy Help is here to assist you. Colorado Bankruptcy Help is a service of the Heupel Law Firm. Kevin Heupel served as Assistant Attorney General, and they are members of the National Association of Consumer Bankruptcy Attorneys. Kevin Heupel from Colorado Bankruptcy Help is here today to explain to us more about bankruptcy. So thank you for being here.
Sure.
Let's talk about bankruptcy and the stigma that's behind it. I mean, there's such a negative stigma, but really let's talk about the reality of it.
The reality is it's a federal law, and it's a federal law that's been around the 1800s. And it's premised on the fact that if it's going to take you more than 5 years to repay your debt, that is involuntary servitude to your creditors, and you deserve relief from it. And with these new credit card statements we're getting, if your credit card statements show that it's going to take you more than 5 years to pay it, you ought to think about bankruptcy.
You know, that's a good rule of thumb for people. Now, what are some warning signs, that people should consider the bankruptcy other than the fact that they can't pay it back in 5 years?
Sure. The biggest warning sign is the numerical factor. If your unsecured debt is more than 30% of your income, you're never going to pay it off. If you're making $60,000 a year and you got more than $20,000 of unsecured debt, like a credit card, private loan, medical debt, you'll never pay it off. The other indicator is, do you feel like you're captive to your creditors? Do you feel like you have no room to do anything, to buy tires, to buy clothing, because the creditors are taking all your money? And if you feel that psychological pressure along with the numerical factor, you're certainly a candidate for bankruptcy.
Another great point there. Now, talk about debt negotiation and credit counseling, and how do they work and how do they compare to bankruptcy?
Yeah, they're kind of two different things. So credit counseling is a legitimate option to bankruptcy. What they do is they take credit card debt, they consolidate it, they put you on a 5 to 7 year repayment plan. But if your unsecured debt again is more than a third of your income, you won't afford the payments, and they'll tell you to file bankruptcy. And before you file bankruptcy, you actually have to do a credit counseling class, which looks at that consolidation. Debt negotiations, where you pay in, you try to get into a pot, and then they go negotiate with the creditors. The problem is you need money, so you have to build up the pot. During that time, you typically get sued, and they'll start garnishing your wages. And the other thing is some creditors do not negotiate. Capital One is a company that will not negotiate debt. American Express will not negotiate the debt. And even if you were successful in negotiating the debt, your credit's destroyed for the next 7 to 10 years, because credit history is based on timely payments. Not that the fact that you made a payment or you settled it and paid it off, it's timely payments. So if you have missed timely payments, your credit sits there bad for 7 years. In a bankruptcy, you come out and 2 years later you have restored credit. And what I mean by that, credit scores in the 700s. You can buy a home under an FHA loan 2 years after bankruptcy. You can buy cars at 6% interest. So bankruptcy compared to debt negotiations is always going to be the better alternative.
Okay, again, another great point. Talk about the different types of bankruptcy that there are and how someone chooses what's best for them.
There's two types. One's called Chapter 7, the other one's called Chapter 13. Ideally, we pick them on the debt. If you have unsecured debt, credit card debt, we put you in a 7. If you are facing foreclosure, you have tax problems, or I can remove a second mortgage, I'd put you in a Chapter 13.
All right. Well, again, just fantastic information. One thing I want to let our viewers know is that you actually offer free consultations, which not a lot of bankruptcy attorneys do. So if someone's considering this, they need to contact you and take advantage of that.